Donald Trump says Hillary Clinton did not respect the office of Secretary of State.
The FBI is investigating how Hillary Clinton put the office of Secretary of State up for sale in violation of federal law.
In Florida, Trump accused Hillary and Bill Clinton of running a corrupt pay-for-play scheme. New NBC Marist polls give Donald Trump sizable leads in Texas and Arizona, but only a one-point edge over Hillary Clinton in Georgia. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. The family of Walter Scott says they're not worried about the racial makeup of the jury in the trial against the former police officer who killed Scott.
We've heard some comments that the jury, it being comprised of 11 white and 1 black, that people were worried. The family isn't at all.
At a news conference in Charleston, South Carolina, attorney L. Chris Stewart said that the skin color of the jury doesn't matter because justice will ultimately be served. Former North Charleston officer Michael Slager was charged in the deadly shooting of Scott in April of 2015. Video of the shooting appears to show Slager shooting Scott in the back while he was running away. The World Series champion Chicago Cubs will have their victory parade tomorrow as they requested. The parade will begin at Wrigley Field, travel in part down Lakeshore Drive, and end in Grant Park. Meryl Streep is winning another award. The Hollywood Foreign Press Association has announced the legendary actress will receive the Cecil B. DeMille Award during next year's Golden Globe Awards. Tom Roberts, NBC News Radio.
This report has been brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council. Roughly 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year, but you can keep your family safer by cleaning with soap and water while preparing food. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Tom Ladd. For this afternoon, it'll be sunny. Expect a high near 84. Clear tonight with the low near 59. You can expect sunny conditions Friday with the high near 82. Clear Friday night with the low near 58. Saturday's outlook sunny, high near 82. It'll be clear Saturday night with the low near 57. Sunday sunny, high of 75. And clear Sunday night with the low near 57. That's your weather forecast for this hour from KCAA 106.5 FM and 1050 AM. The stations that leave no listener behind.
Hi, this is Ed Kilgore calling to warn you about greedy private water companies who are pumping $15,000 into my opponent's campaign to take over the San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water. Why? To make more money. They already raised your water rates by 135%. My other opponent doesn't live in the division. Vote Ed Kilgore in this most critical drought in over 100 years. Experience, knowledge, honesty does matter. This is Ed Kilgore, and I approve this message.
KCAA.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, slip on those flip-flops, lock on that dial for a completely different kind of real estate radio show. It's time for the Flip-Flop Investor Show. It's not what you think. Here's Stephen McGee and Todd Bayer.
All right, everyone, how we doing out there today?
They can't answer you.
They can't answer me, yeah. Why do I always start it off that way? You know, I should think of a better way to do this. Anyway, my name is Todd Bayer. With me is Stephen McKee, and we are the Flip-Flop Investors. This is the Flip-Flop Investors radio show, where we talk every week about real estate investment locally here in the Inland Empire. Today, we have a very special guest with us, a person we've done business with for a while. Her name is Summer Flores. She's a notary and real estate agent. How you doing, Summer?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you, Todd.
So we met a while back because I was doing loans back in, this was like 2011, I think.
Yeah, about that.
And I was doing loans, and at that time we had somebody else handling our loan documents, and they were handling the notarization, but they were out in Long Beach, and most of my clients are out here in the Inland Empire. And so I was talking to our borrower at that time, who was, they were real estate agents in your office.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and they brought you to the office, and you did the notary for us on that particular transaction, and the rest is history. We've pretty much done every single notary we've had, like just about every document we've had notarized. It's been yours.
I think I had to refer one time, one appointment out one time.
Yeah.
To Al.
Oh yeah, yep,
Yeah.
we did. We've done
Yeah.
it a few times, I think, where we've
You
had
had
somebody
to.
else, but
Yeah.
for the most part, when you're not, on vacation or something.
Yeah. I
yeah.
would say about 98% of the time, I'm definitely your go-to notary.
And that's the way to be.
Yeah.
So you are with Summertime Realty, right?
Yeah,
And
Summertime Realty Group.
Summertime Realty Group, you list properties in and around the Inland Empire as well, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay, so let's go through real quickly on a listing. So some people out there may have never bought a home or sold a home, because from what we understand, over the last year, 60% of people that have sold their home are a first-time home seller, which is kind of interesting because that means these are people that have never sold a home before.
Right.
So I was kind of wanting to ask you about what a listing looks like. When somebody first reaches out to you because they want to sell their home, what does that process look like?
Well, generally the first question is, they're calling to say, hey, Summer, what is my home worth? They want to know what it's worth.
And
How?
do you tell them that?
Well, I don't have to. I mean, I might have some idea right off the top of my head, but I usually will have to take some of their information, of course, detailed property information, and do my research to see what the highest value I could get for their home in today's market. Because, what a person could get for that home maybe 10 years ago has changed, even sometimes 5 years ago, Actually, the real estate market changes so much that, every 90 days there's something new, whether it's dropping, stabilizing, or increasing.
Sure. And I know lately we've been seeing sales going up, sales prices are going up, inventories are staying fairly stable.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, but the market's still pretty hot, I would say, out here anyway.
Yeah, and I would say it's still a pretty good balance, Now, before it was like a horrible time to sell, and now, it's really kind of balanced out with the lower interest rates. It's still making, it, out there, affordable to most people, with the whole increase and so forth, people maintaining the values on their home, maybe not extreme increases, but they have enough equity to sell and make a little money and move on to some change,
Yeah. Are you noticing people wanting to move into a bigger house, into a smaller house, a similar house, better neighborhood? What are you noticing with people right now?
I would say a lot of people are doing the move up. They're doing a lot of the move up. Their families are increasing. They need more bedrooms. They want more space. Not too many people are staying in the sense of simplicity.
Yeah.
They want it all. They want the pool, jacuzzi.
Oh, we're getting
that
that's
kind of
bad sign.
the loft.
Yeah. Is that a bad? I want a pool and a
thing.
loft.
Yeah.
That's the initial. The I want to move up is the initial. Things are gonna get serious.
Is that
serious move?
Is that the gateway drug to an out of control economy, Steve?
Well, so I got suckered into selling my sister's house for her because I have a license.
Yeah.
So and
Best experience of your life.
this one was actually really easy. But I had sold them their house originally years ago, and so they were a move-up buyer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as their move-up buyer, they had a contingent home, a home they were selling to buy a new home.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start seeing that on the backside of our flips. We're going to have contingent buyers, right? Like especially on our larger properties we buy. And I had never done a contingent sale, ever. In over a decade.
I'm actually seeing a lot of that right now.
I literally never. I had no idea what to do, and so it's hilarious that after a decade of having a license, I had no idea what to expect. And even now, so as investors, I've never accepted a contingent offer, but it's probably really realistic now. What the heck should we be looking for as an investor accepting a contingent offer? Because you're going to have buyers that are moving up to something we got.
Yeah,
What's it gonna
I
look
would
like?
say how stable their escrow is,
Their current one.
Yeah, the current one.
So what if the property isn't sold
Because
yet?
usually the only time that the seller is putting, like, let's say the seller has a home for sale contingent upon them finding a replacement, right?
Yeah.
So you're saying, what do you do if they're being the buyer to
Yeah.
your property, right?
Yeah, because we're going
Okay.
to see more of that on
So
our
generally
side.
the seller is not going to go and put an offer on a house until they're already in escrow.
Generally. Yeah.
Generally,
Yeah.
yeah. So there can't be any holdup there.
So what right do I have, or do I have the ability to ask? What do I have to ask of them? What can I ask of my buyer that has a contingent
How
escrow?
far they're along into escrow, or what contingencies have been removed or not, that kind of thing.
So I'm looking for like a more, I guess, mature escrow.
Yeah.
Hopefully, instead of like day one.
Yeah. Yeah.
That way,
because in this business, you never really count on it until it's closed, right?
Exactly.
Right.
But you want to know what the likelihood is, so you have to explore, where that is in their process, in order for you to consider their offer.
I wonder if we should, going into this sort of change. I wonder if we should be. If we should have like sort of a checklist of stuff we want from those type of people,
Yeah,
or
maybe
send off automatically
and
with our
questions.
agents.
Yeah.
To
Or and also depending on where they're at in their escrow, maybe in negotiations, I don't know how ready and willing they're going to answer those questions or what right they have. I know that there's a little box you got to check on the contracts that it's contingent upon, so it has to be disclosed. But it also, at some point, you have to know some idea, but if they don't tell you, if they're not ready to tell you every little detail, it would be most important to use your end of the negotiations to say, okay, well, you want this house removed, this contingency now, or that kind of thing, whatever it may be. Maybe leave the inspection contingency, but take away the financial. It also depends whether they're financed or cash, too. You never know.
No, absolutely.
'Cause a lot of people are still using the cash from their escrow.
Yeah, they may be taking proceeds and paying cash for the new place, or combining with other cash.
So many factors.
It was just weird that I had never done one, and then so I never want to sell a home or buy a home.
Well, that's
with
kind of interesting too, because you've been in the business quite some time, right?
Well, I got licensed in 2005.
Okay.
So in 2005, you didn't get your offer accepted if it was contingent.
Okay.
Like everybody said no.
Yeah.
I would have to go back to like 2002.
Well, because there were so many offers on the table that they
Yeah.
didn't have to consider it, right?
Not at all. And so
Right.
like you wrote it non-contingent, and you just hope to God your escrow closed, right?
Right.
And so I was putting together all the paperwork for this transaction, and the RPA's changed so much, and
What is an RPA?
the purchase agreement, the residential purchase agreement, has changed so much, and I'm doing all the
AKA
disclosures. Yeah, the offer.
We do that because it's it's an industry
Jargon
jargon
flag.
flag,
Yeah.
So I know exactly what an RPA is.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we do
No,
it for the
good
audience
point.
listening. We
Yeah.
want to make sure they know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Sorry about that, audience.
Yeah.
Without your mind readers,
We should if we had we should have like little cue cards in front of the Ustream, but like if you want jargon, tune in.
Yeah, we need a glossary of terms.
But it was
love
odd
it.
to see. It was odd to put one together, and I already don't want to sell a home as it is. I did it for my family. Like I do not sell. If anybody listens to this and they think I sell homes, I do not do that.
Yeah. Don't call Steven if you want to sell your home.
Yeah, I will not list it. But
You love working with buyers, though, right?
yeah, no. The amount of somebody on Trulia right now is listening, going, "We should call this guy and sell him a package."
Yeah.
I do not want your Trulia package. But
So, Summer, you've walked some homes with buyers, right?
Walk some homes?
Yeah, like
you mean?
you've been shown property.
Yeah,
Oh,
like you show
yes.
properties. You
Oh,
know.
yeah. It's one of my. Actually, I really enjoy showing homes. Yeah.
What's that like right now? Yeah.
Yeah, like what's that? Because I've never done it.
I'm seeing actually a lot of homes that need work.
Really?
To be honest with you, yeah.
Like what kind of work are you talking? Are you like
A large amount of cosmetic work. It doesn't seem to, a lot of them don't seem to have a whole lot of major work that, meets the eye or appears to be large. But a lot of, carpet, painting, maybe a facelift in the kitchen or a few bathrooms, so a lot of outdated stuff. But
nothing's broken though? Like
Nothing
everything
broken.
functions. It's just not.
Are the buyers
Nice.
like okay with it, or are they kind of like?
some of them are. Yeah, some of them are. I'm seeing more and more buyers become more flexible and start to kind of, see beyond the work that may need to be done in it, and not have to be looking into the move-in ready type stuff, even though that's nice. It just depends on the situation. Like I currently have a buyer right now who, they really don't mind the work. The husband's a handyman. They're comfortable with doing their own. I know they must have like, I don't know, a bunch of siblings or friends that are in the contracting business.
Yeah.
I think one guy he knows is like, in the cabinet business, so they get deals on it. But they got a baby coming. No, they got a baby coming.
So are they flexible? Are they flexible at price too? Then
Yes, I've seen that they've become more flexible.
So
it
they're
kinda,
like, we'll
it kind
pay a
of
little
grew.
more, take a little more work, and they're
Yeah,
okay with it?
yeah.
So they're taking less of a house, essentially, for the dollar.
In a sense, yeah.
Okay.
In a sense. And the baby came into a factor because I think she's due in like December or January. And she's just kind of like saying, you know what, like we rather take less of a home and have it move-in ready than to do the work ourselves. However, their first approach was, you know, we can see the vision and we're okay with doing some work ourselves if we can get it at the right price.
I had a buyer like that, and a while ago, and they closed escrow 2 weeks before she was due, and it was a fixer-upper, and all I could think is like, man, this dude's life.
Yeah, well, that's what, you know, I try not to get too emotionally involved in it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at all, you know, because I always remind my buyers and sellers, but mainly buyers especially, I just let them know, hey, look, I'm not, you know, this is not my transaction. This is your transaction.
Yeah.
You have to be 100% on board, you know, with whatever you're moving into, the area, location, school districts, you know, whether you want a family or not, or you already have one, all those come into play. And, you know, it's just kind of helping them decide for themselves, you know. So I just tell them I'm the knowledge disher outer.
So what
Not
we're
gonna
just
sell
saying is
them.
we should put flyers up in maternity wards for turnkey properties.
Yeah.
Because that's going to help us sell.
Yeah,
That makes
move
sense.
in. You don't have to do any work.
Suddenly, if
Just
we'll
pop
assemble
out
the
the
crib.
baby.
We'll
Yeah.
assemble the crib.
We'll have an assembly party. Pizza and beer.
I am not
duels
assembling
for the
furniture.
breastfeeder.
Duels for the breastfeeder. I am not under any circumstance assembling furniture. Oh my god. IKEA is the devil.
Here's an Allen wrench for you. Here's an Allen wrench for you.
Oh, no, thank you.
Like, no, thank
Yeah.
you.
I'll contribute the $20 an hour to pay somebody else to do that
Exactly.
job.
I'll send a gift card.
I'll send a gift card. IKEA repair. IKEA
You hire
assembly service.
your kid, right?
It's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah.
She's like, she messed up again this week, so I got to get her a new job.
There
so
you
like
go.
maybe I should like do that.
So, okay, so
Teenage
you're walking
buyer.
through these houses and stuff, and you're saying that most people are looking for like the move up. But I'm sure we're getting a lot of the first time home buyers too,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of people that this is going to be their
Yeah.
first home. And
Actually, my last 2 referrals were first-time home buyers.
there's obviously a very big difference between a first-time home buyer and a step-up buyer. It's like a parent that has their first kid versus their second kid. Like the first one, they're like covered in pillows at all times, and the second kid, you know, like
Yeah.
No, I'll be fine.
They're a little
like,
bit
"He'll be
more
fine."
breezy during the transaction because they know what to expect and they kind of have some sort of idea.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then walking homes with a first-time home buyer, is that a different experience for you rather than walking through a home with a step-up buyer?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How much faster does a step-up buyer leave a house versus a new buyer?
Probably 20 minutes faster.
They're like, nope.
A good
done.
20 minutes, yeah.
We can tell. In fact, we have a property right now that we have a surveillance system on,
Okay.
and so occasionally we'll get notifications that somebody's showing the property because they'll pop up, say the motion's been detected, and both Stephen and myself will like go on the phone and like watch the people like show the house, you know.
Yeah.
And we can definitely tell who
Yeah.
the first
Through
time
the
buyers
body language, right?
There's
Yeah.
body language. We
Yeah.
can read that. We don't have microphones, which
Yeah.
we've thought
We
like
got to do the
should put it in
canary.
there.
I'm telling you, we got to put a canary in each one.
Yeah, but
It's an electronic device, not the actual canary. Not actual canary.
it's funny though because we can
Thanks for clarifying that.
we can actually totally tell though which ones are the step-up buyers and which ones are the first-time buyers
Yeah.
because those first-time people are there for like 45 minutes,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
looking at
Checking
everything
all
in
the
the house.
drawers.
Yeah, checking every drawer. And I'm
Yeah.
like, please don't check every drawer.
Yeah.
Some of them are not amazing, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's funny. So, but the first-time buyers, they tend to be a little more nitpicky though.
Absolutely. I mean, they're just starting to explore, you know. It's like walking into a new store almost, you know.
Yeah.
So they got to kind of hit every corner and then, you know, and especially if it's a husband and wife, that's where I always find it very interesting.
Does a husband do this? He puts his arms out really wide and says, the TV goes right here.
Yeah.
Stands against the wall.
He's like, "Where's the man cave?"
As the wife has her back turned to her husband, showing this is where the couch will go. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I see them going through, you know, and then a lot of it is definitely the language that they're using, their response to the layout usually, and they've got a lot to say. Whereas the move up, you know, they're like like Steve said, it's in and out, really. They know what they're looking for. They already know what the process looks like, so they just know that they've got to make, a yes or no decision.
Yeah. And they know what they don't like about their current house and what they'd like to have.
This one's got a 2-car garage. I want a 3M out.
Right.
This one only has 2 bedrooms. I want 3M out.
Yeah.
So
I think cul-de-sac too. A lot of times I'm seeing a lot of families really like the cul-de-sac. So
So that's probably one thing that, like before you go out and look at all the properties, you sit down with your client and you say, all right, let's go over some things that are like must-haves. Let's go over some things that are.
Oh, definitely. Before I even take them out, I do what's called a needs analysis with them. So I sit down and talk to them about, what it is their family needs, you know, and then what they can do with and what they could do without. You know, so sometimes it could be a really great house, but they're really not interested in a pool, but it has everything else that they want. But is the pool going to be a deal breaker? That's what I want to know. Yeah. Because I'm not going to want to waste their time by showing them anything that has a deal breaker in there, Of
course not. So. Yeah, and there's a lot of things you can filter out in the MLS when you're searching for properties. And
big time.
I mean, certainly a pool is one of those.
Why it's extremely important to completely fill out your MLS on every listing.
Yeah, please.
Big time. All the agents out there listening, please do that.
Yeah,
you do us all a big favor and save a whole lot of time.
If you're listing a property that you're flipping and your agent isn't filling out your MLS sheet absolutely 100% complete, they're doing you a giant disservice.
Right.
Yeah. It's common. It's really common, too.
Also, one thing I'd like to kind of back up to about when we talk about a first-time home buyer, a lot of people believe that you have to never, ever in the history of your life have bought a home.
Yeah,
right?
why? You know what? Why is that?
That's because the lending industry, and I don't know it too much in detail, and I'm not a licensed lender or anything, but I do know that you are only considered a first-time buyer as long as you have not bought a home in the past 3 years. Or owned a home in the past 3 years. So it can't be a second home. Like you can't own a house and then 3 years later not buy and then consider, be considered a first-time home buyer.
Yeah, you would have had to have been renting something.
Renting for the past 3 years, yeah.
Have another kind
But
of
you could have bought a home, 5 years ago. A lot of people during the housing crash lost their home to foreclosure and that kind of thing. And they think, oh, well, I lose out on all the first-time home buyer programs. And that is not true, folks.
You can still get an FHA loan if you don't have another FHA loan.
Yeah.
So you're always going to get the low down payment loan.
That too, yeah. Right. But if you want some down payment assistance or anything like that, yeah, and they're out there, and a lot of people think you have to be broke to qualify for them, and you really don't.
No.
You just have to. Yeah. They're more lenient, and they just really go off of the people per household and the income that's coming in.
Yeah, we have one right now on a project, and it's going smoothly.
It's really not so bad. Yeah. No. The only thing is that when you're doing those kind of programs, you want to make sure you're working with a lender who knows their stuff.
Oh yeah.
Because it's a little bit different system than doing it direct in house. So you're going off of California state regulations and that kind of thing, and having to be on their timeline. So.
And if you're going to accept an offer from somebody has a down payment assistance program, which they are harder to get accepted because they're less attractive to a lot of sellers.
And it's less attractive because
they take longer.
Yes.
So my interest cost goes up.
Yeah.
So I generally only want to take it in a place where I'm trying to get top dollars. So as a down payment assistance buyer.
And the fastest, right?
Yeah. So in a down payment assistance buyer is generally going to pay more for a home.
Right.
In the long run, but they're going to get a lower down payment. But the biggest thing I'm seeing on any file, but especially down payment assistance programs, is a newer agent will tend to work with a down payment assistance buyer because they don't have the inflow of clients, and they won't have their lender pull tax returns for the last 2 years, and you'll get to like day 30 of a file and go, oh man, this guy wrote off $20,000 and stuff and now doesn't really qualify. So you want to make sure the lender on the file has an absolute complete package, and you're using a lender you trust to cross-qualify that buyer.
Yeah. And I definitely do. So
yeah, we always say, right? Like, you don't get in the car unless you're qualified.
Yeah, most definitely. You actually won't even get a listing drip from me unless I know what you're qualified for.
Yeah.
Because there's no point in me putting in a price range if I don't know what price range you fit
$1 million.
Yeah. 0 to 1 million.
Everything in Riverside.
Please, what is it? Did they tell you actually? They won't even let you put that far of a range. You have to definitely break it down.
That's super funny.
Yeah. Too many out there, actually. There's so many options out there. One of the biggest things that I tell people, though, when it comes to the market, they say, hey, Summer, how's the market going? And my biggest reply to them that I love to share with them is I'd say, well, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And they'll go, what? And I said, well, how are you doing? Like, is your credit good? You got income coming in? Has it been consistent? Is it reliable?
Yeah.
And also, do you even want to move? Well, how's the market? Is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell?
Yeah.
And it's really like, I'm like, it's up to you. Essentially, you are the market. So if you're doing well, the market's doing well. The market's going to be thriving. So that's my biggest nugget in this business. And I've learned that early on, and it's been a great conversation piece to have with people thinking about buying and selling, because it really gets their wheels spinning on where they're at in their life, whether they want to, leverage the finance aspect,
I don't think people consider that a lot. Most of the people worry about what the economic factors are, and they don't realize that buying a home to live in isn't an investment.
Right.
It's a personal choice.
Yeah.
And so, like, when we're selling, and we're sort of looking at it from that aspect too, looking at the buyer and saying, all right, there used to be two criteria in subprime lending, right?
Mm-hmm.
It used to be, can the buyer truly afford this payment, and will it make their life better? And if you could answer yes to both, then you should do the loan.
Right.
And the same sort of applies to selling a property. If you look at the buyer and they can truly afford the payment, right? They have income stability by whatever means, and it will make their life better to move up from their current circumstance.
That's interesting because aside from being a licensed realtor, I'm also a certified loan signer. So there's actually a document in a full set of loan documents that there's a page in there that actually has you sign and affirm that this loan will not cause you any hardship.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
There was actually one of the old World Savings guidelines, even as far back as like the late 70s. That was the main question they would ask is can the buyer afford the payment, and will it make their life better?
Yeah.
And so that's why you see those weird move down guidelines, or where like a buyer's like, are they truly downsizing? Are they truly upsizing?
But did that go out the window when stated income loans came in?
Well, I mean,
obviously, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it went from subprime or quote alt A to absolute crap.
Okay.
So we're back to non-QM loans is the new term for alt A. It's the same thing. It's just called non-QM now. And so a non-qualified mortgage is the term. And they're looking for alternative guidelines, right? Does the buyer write everything off but really make the income? So can they shift their income from the boat they're writing off as an entertainment expense to their housing expense? Can they did they have a short sale within the last 3 years and they're going to fall under an FHA guideline, which is that's a conforming product, but an FHA guideline, because everything else in the credit's normal except for this short sale or foreclosure was just beyond 3 years. And so you're seeing these like products that are allowing people to jump back in the market, but the underwriting guidelines are still extremely strict. The buyer can truly afford them, afford the home, but they're going back to a little bit of that, can they afford the payment and will it improve their life?
Right.
Instead of hardcore like Wells Fargo type underwriting.
Yeah.
Which when I see a Wells Fargo offer,
no comment.
I'll comment. Like I almost say no almost every time. Like if I'm getting a Wells Fargo appraiser at my property, I'm scared to death because they're going to like write down my value $30,000 just because they want their loan to be ultra conservative, regardless of whether or not somebody's willing to pay more. And I won't.
Actually, one of the deals that fell out this month was an approved Wells Fargo loan. Right? They said they could do it. They had the buyer pay for the appraisal, and once the lender says, "Hey, pay for the appraisal," I'm like, "Okay, we're gold," you know, because generally, that's a cost that you take on as the buyer, and if they come back and say we can't do the loan after all, you're out that money.
Yeah.
So buyers out there, beware of the time that the person's telling you to, fork out the money for your appraisal.
Home
do your
inspection
research.
too.
Yeah, home inspection too, big time.
Both there's like an $800 to $1,000 out-of-pocket cost, and you make that up front. And if you're not fully qualified for your loan before opening escrow,
right,
you got a problem.
But I had a pre-approval letter ahead of
Yeah.
In quotes, I'm
Quote-
making
yeah.
marks. Pre-approval letter.
pre-approval letter.
Yes. At some point, maybe people will stop asking for them because they realize they're just garbage anyway.
Well, you know,
so.
it just showed me though. You know, I'm not saying I've been in the business a long time, but I'm not brand new either. You know, I got licensed in 2010, end of 2010. But it just showed me that there's a lot I can still keep learning about to help protect the buyer, you know, and that kind of thing, and who they work with. I'm not knocking Wells Fargo completely, but but I definitely don't have a Wells Fargo lender that I constantly refer my business to. Let's just put it that way.
I'm like worried that in the future Wells Fargo is going to underwrite like a large hard money like portfolio for us and go,
I know they're gonna
remember
go
that
back to
interview
this.
question, because they're the largest hard money underwriter like in the country.
Yeah.
And so ironically the Class A lender is also the absolute dirt lender as well,
Right.
like in the backside,
Yeah.
conservatively.
Yeah, they're a big bank.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're really
they're
big.
huge.
banks.
Yeah, and you never want to knock it, but you know, when you
No.
have an experience like that, it makes you wonder
Over
where could
and
I,
over and
where
over
could
again.
I have helped in communication to avoid the buyer paying for, you know, to avoid the buyer paying for that appraisal before they got the message to say, hey, we're declining your loan.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think, you know, banks being conservative, though, that's sort of opened up another cottage industry, which is private equity. You know, like, banks sort of have to be the conservative arm of the economy. You know, like, they have to fully underwrite everything. They're so heavily watched. So it's a good thing, in a way, because it creates the secondary, you know, like, private money, private equity market. And
well, with you guys having a lending background, right?
Yeah.
What would, I mean, we know, well, I don't want to assume everyone knows what hard money is, but what would be the difference between a direct lender and Wells Fargo?
I mean, a direct
Just
lender.
a smaller
Direct
scale?
lender traditionally means that it's their money, and it's a portfolio loan, so it's a loan that they're going to keep in-house.
Okay.
So if you're getting a loan from a direct lender, it means that they're using their own money.
And
or
that
their
they're
own
not
line
going
of
to sell
credit.
it off in the secondary market?
No, they still can.
They still can,
they
right?
can.
Okay.
They
But their
can.
intention is it's their money and they're going to keep it.
Yeah,
Right.
in most cases, the ones that sell them off would be more like a wholesale lender. You
Mm.
know, like, well, they're going to fund it with their own line of credit or their own cash, and then they're going to sell it off to whoever, secondary market. You know, MERS is their trustee, and it gets handled through MERS and all that stuff.
And you,
But-
you also
okay.
have like an in-between now. You're seeing like when you get to a certain size wholesale lender, they become like these hybrids where they'll have capital partners, they'll have their own internal line, they'll have something where they're making money on some margins. So they'll lend to Fannie Freddie guidelines, and they'll also have product they'll keep portfolioed, and meaning they keep it in-house. But then they'll have product that was intended to be sold to Fannie Freddie, but ends up in their portfolio pool. So it was actually a little heavier underwritten because Fannie Freddie kicked it for a dumb reason. And so those are the ones, the companies that tend to, you can rely on to close because they're going to either portfolio it or sell, and either doesn't matter because the Fannie Freddie guidelines are going to be more strict than their portfolio line, and they're going to be able to close your transaction one way or another.
Okay.
And you can usually tell like who you're dealing with because if it's their money they're lending out, you're going to be paying fewer points. Like the closer you get to the actual money, the cheaper it gets for you. You know, like if you're borrowing right now at like 6.25% and paying 5 points, you know,
You're pretty far
you're
off.
quite a distance away from where the money's coming
7
from.
people from the source.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
but if you're at 1 to 2
so,
points in
so there's like
par.
7 middlemen that you're paying out?
I mean, sometimes in these cases you're looking at what are the
Daisy chains.
what do they call the branch offices? They would do it in like they would have the medium-sized wholesalers would then open these local branch offices that would operate sort of like a mortgage lender, but they reported back to the branch lender?
Correspondent.
Correspondent lender, yeah.
Okay.
They'd have the correspondent stations.
Yeah.
And so you'd have essentially 4 people in the chain instead of 3. And so you have a whole nother 1 to 2 points in processing somewhere in the middle there. And then so they would take these people who would have failing mortgage companies, so the small mortgage companies, and they would recruit them and say, well, be a part of our big company. We have all this great underwriting and resources.
Is that what happened with Plaza Mortgage?
That's up with a lot of them.
Did you ever hear of Plaza Mortgage?
I know who they are. I don't know what their
okay.
exit strategy quote
They were
was.
my very first lender on one of my houses.
They wrote a bunch of garbage.
Yeah.
Like I know that they were I mean, lots of people did though.
Yeah,
I mean, not
yeah,
to pick on them in
yeah,
any way.
not-
Like
yeah.
lots of people wrote lots of garbage, like because that's what.
But they were
people
considered
wanted.
the smaller one, right?
Yeah.
That probably got taken in by the
There
bigger
are lots
guys.
of. There's probably like even so. If you have, you've probably never been on the site. If anybody hasn't been on the site, go to implodometer.com. That's a real site.
Can you spell that out for us?
Yeah, so like implode, like something in IMPLODOMETER, implodometer.com.
Wow.
You'll see a list of every lender that went under during the subprime crisis,
Oh.
when they went under, how much they went under with, so on and so on.
Interesting.
And so you'll see like local. I don't know if they'll have local branch offices, but they'll have like the medium-sized guys. The guys that actually have like lines of credit, and it's revealing. And like it's like domino. I mean, I experienced it while it was happening. So
Mortgage
but you
companies
see where they went.
exposed.
Yeah. Yeah. Matter of fact, if you want to learn about that business at all, there's a short book called "Confessions of a Subprime Lender."
Oh, okay.
It's like 200 pages, written from a subprime lender out of Texas. Best subprime lending explanation book I ever read.
Awesome.
Stories. I think it's like $8 on Amazon. It's an awesome book.
And if
That's
you're
awesome.
if you're a visual person, watch The Big Short,
Yeah.
the movie. If you're visual and you don't want to read a book,
I actually am a visual even though I like books, though. I probably would go to that first, though.
yeah.
So
The Big Short explains it
The Big
somewhat.
Short.
They
somewhat
break it down.
humorously,
That's
I
a
guess,
movie
but-
recently,
Yeah.
It's a movie,
right?
yeah, with Christian
Okay,
Bale
I think I
and-
just saw it on Netflix or something.
So that like the Big Short explains it from the investor side,
Uh-huh.
and then Confessions of a Subprime Lender explains it from the lending side, from the client side.
Ah,
And so that's actually probably, if you got both of them, you'd have a pretty concrete explanation of
Okay.
both.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah, and it
I like
wasn't.
that.
I mean, there was so much other stuff going on
Yeah.
behind the scenes, that so many people were unaware of.
We saw
Yeah.
some gnarly stuff, like who is the guy, Jose Ochoa, and he had like 46 or 52 lending fraud. He had straw buyer transactions. He bought my first flip.
I can't remember his name.
That was his
but
name. It was Jose Ochoa.
Is that what it was?
Yes, and his wife ended up short selling like all this stuff that he had committed fraud. It was a really interesting
Wow,
case.
uh-huh.
He went to jail. Like
Wow.
I remember I was at my property, and I was in the garage sweeping out the like the last stuff before the for showings, and he showed up with this other buyer, and he was like driving like an S550 and rolling into like a not so awesome part of Marina Valley. So this all looked weird. And then the guy behind him is driving like a Land Rover, and they're buying this property, and they're buying it owner occupied. So I mean, all this is weird. And then like 6 months to a year later, I think Todd's mom brought it to our attention. He's like, "Hey, did you see this?" And all of those loans that he had, they were all no down loans that he was turning into these weird AITD structures. They all went sideways
Wow.
all at once. And so these tenants, or these rent-to-own tenants in the property, were essentially filing charges for what was
Wow.
happening because he had
Kind of
stopped
like a
making
class
payments.
action.
And then all together, I think the FBI came in. Like it
Whoa.
was pretty crazy.
Yeah. And,
Wow.
that was happening like a domino effect
Yeah.
with a lot of people. He wasn't the only one.
Well, they were quote investors.
Yeah.
That's what people classify everybody else as, the investors who are doing this weird, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there are good guy investors out there. I'm sitting with two of them.
Yeah. I've met a few myself.
That's called,
Yeah.
there's investors and there's speculators. Those guys are speculating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like one thing people assume about us is that since we're investors, we're cavalier, we're speculative, but we're actually fairly conservative. Like realistically, we don't
Yeah.
do anything based upon what we hope is going to happen. Everything we
God.
do is based upon what we
What
know
you
is
can
going to
You
happen.
bet on
Calculate,
sure
right?
things.
Yeah, we bet on sure things.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
like to pull the handle and hope
Yeah.
hope the jackpot comes up.
Yeah,
you know?
save the
Somebody said
gambling
that-
for the casino, right?
Somebody said to me last night after my presentation in Glendale, I tend to be pretty cavalier in my presentations, tell people why I won't buy a property, what you should tell a seller, and I'm usually pretty crass. And this girl walks up to me and she says, you seem like you're pretty cavalier. I'm like, I mean, I guess here I'm like, but you should see my spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
if my spreadsheet is detailed down to the penny for every transaction and what the total cost is over time, if I can run the project out for a year before failure, like I'm looking for all the worst angles possible because I've already gone under with properties.
Right.
Sucks.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to do that again.
Yeah.
No thanks.
But it taught you a lot, right? Experience is the best teacher.
Yeah, it was cost a little more than a Harvard education. Only I didn't get the peer group.
Oh yeah, yeah. He didn't get the email
or the
list.
degree, right?
Yeah. No,
Thanks
yeah.
about that.
Nobody.
Piece of paper.
It's a lot harder to raise money without the piece of paper.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, Summer, you're also starting to get into the investment world. I know we've talked a little bit about it over the years.
Yeah.
I mean, you see what we're doing, and you're like, I want to get in on this.
Yeah,
you know?
most definitely. I'm
And
getting
you've-
more and more serious about it.
Yeah, and you've come to our club, the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club, which
It's
we haven't really mentioned
great club,
yet.
by the way, everyone.
Oh, thank you for that plug. Yeah, I mean, I tell people I'm sorry ahead of time, but no, everybody else seems to really enjoy it.
Keep the expectations low. That way you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Bring a hanky.
Yeah, I know.
For sweat or tears, you never know.
You never know. More likely tears. No, I'm just kidding. So you've been at the club a couple times, and you've had a good experience there. So, I mean, what was it that really got you to start thinking about investing in the first place? Was it really me? I'd like to think it was, but I doubt it.
No, it wasn't you at all. I'm sorry. I'm very blunt. At all. X-nay on the Upitsnay.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. But I would say the biggest thing is, first and foremost, the profit. But one of the things that got me into this business was to see a market of people who are struggling. And usually people that are struggling are hoping and praying for solutions, and they don't know their options. So my first, approach, coming from the consumer side to the business side, was to get my real estate license. But I'm seeing that even without the real estate license, as an investor, you can also see where people may be struggling with their homes and can benefit from, a cash offer and get them out from that so they can get moving forward, because they obviously reached a block in their life, whether it's emotions, motivation, finances, and sometimes all of the above, and it really... I'm a little bit of a softie, so it kind of breaks my heart thinking about husband and wives breaking up over finances because they lack the knowledge of their options, and these kids get left with, divorced mom and dads and that kind of thing. So
2 Christmases.
a lot of people think, it's just this business and people are capitalizing off of it, but the people are capitalizing off of it, yes, but at the same time, there's a lot of people out there with good intentions who actually are trying to put themselves in the paths of people who could really benefit from, getting rid of their house.
I think that's the right mentality to have, because a lot of people, they look at investors like, oh, we're just throwing out these low ball offers. We're horrible people. We're stealing these homes from folks.
Every Disney movie ever.
Yeah, I know. Every movie where it's us trying to shut down that terrible ski lodge, and
Right.
those horrible developers are trying to
It was
improve
the Goonies.
something.
The Goonies started it. Goonies, the bank was foreclosing on them.
But
They didn't give them enough peanut butter.
I know, exactly. So I like that you have that perspective because, like I said, people think that we're making these lowball offers. And, I mean, realistically, it's the best offer we can make as an investor.
Yeah.
And there's a trade.
Yeah.
We're helping you get out of your situation that you need out of now.
Right.
And we're going to trade some of your equity for that because, we're going to handle your problem for you.
Right.
You can go off and do whatever you need to do now that is off your plate.
That's the biggest one.
Yeah.
And I think being a licensed realtor as well as, an aspiring investor, the angle is really saying, hey, these are your options, but also that, like, if it doesn't make sense to be bought out with cash, that they can also short sale. Being a short sale, which a lot of people don't really know this, but it doesn't cost the homeowner to present to the bank that they have this hardship and can no longer afford their mortgage and they need a way out. You know?
And as a lender, most lenders want to be notified ahead of time.
Absolutely.
That their borrower is not going to be able to make their payment because
100%.
And a lot of times a lender will be willing to work with a homeowner, and say, hey, if you're going through a temporary hardship, we can modify your loan temporarily, something like that because
because if you even if you lost your job but you kept all your credit card payments up and your credit's still good and they can see you're trying, and it's traceable, documented, that kind of thing, they usually will give you some leniency with that, But kind of coming back to whether they want to be bought out cash from an investor, buyer, or short sale is really helping them detach emotionally from the house. That's the big thing. So usually when I'm talking to somebody who's in a hardship, I refer to the property as property, not a home. I use the term property because it's just something that they can get something better later, if they just kind of step back, if they have to for a while and rent for a little bit, to get back on their feet, so to speak, or live with a family member, whatever they got to do to modify, but to just get them emotionally detached from it, because a lot of people did, spend some time there, maybe their memories, their first this, their first that, but once you get them around that, you can help them understand that, to see a bigger vision, basically, and beyond that house, period.
Well, the owners can really use investors as a tool, too, where your investor can write a cash offer, which means you have a baseline value, right? So I know I'm going to get at least this. Right. And then secondary, if you have a short sale property, your investor can write a cash offer to a bank, and the bank will then start the process. Mm-hmm. So now no one's traipsed through your home, like no one's bothered you. An investor wrote a cash offer on the property, and now the bank's processing that short sale, and it may take a while, 2, 3, 4 months for the bank to process it. It may take a while, but they're going to give you an approved price. Mm-hmm. So now as a seller and as an agent, you have a price the bank is willing to take, and you can remarket the property at that new price, or if the bank will take the investor's price, you just close the transaction. Right. And so it's sort of a win for the agent, the owner, and I don't think enough people consider that a part of the opening process, where I would take a lot of comfort in knowing, okay, I'm going to get at least $200,000 for this house, and put it on the open market, and somebody comes in and they offer $220 and ask for a bunch of repairs you don't have money for and all this nonsense. Right. And you go, well, look, after expenses, I'm going to get the same price. I'll just take the cash guy, close in 10 days, and be on my way.
Yeah.
And then you're emotionally freed from that mess, because it's a terrible emotional attachment.
Yeah, because that's another thing, you really have to have a family that is a little resilient to their situation, so that they can sort of keep that poker face while showing, because they're sort of in this bit of humility. I notice a lot of short sellers are like, no sign in the yard, I don't want my neighbors to know it's a foreclosure, and
I don't want to be home to show it.
And I totally understand that, so an investor is a great solution to the problem, because you can go in there and, like you said, just seamlessly make it happen and just make it a win-win. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, and you can continue to market the property as well. So you could have it in the MLS. People can continue to call the agent. You can build an interest list while it's processing, like on a short sale or even a standard, and collect offers, and then see what the market will do.
Yeah.
That's the benefit.
Options.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the benefit of being like an investor agent, is that you can give them those additional options. One thing, because I'm not a licensed agent.
Right. You're not?
No, I'm not.
I'm just kidding.
Never have been.
Licensed lender.
Yeah, I'm a lender, but if I'm not able to buy it as an investment, then I have to just refer it to somebody else and say, hey, come over here and do this. Which I mean, agents love me for that, but that's.
Me drag them in. You're like, hey, I got this deal. I can't do anything with it. I got a distressed seller. Let's solve it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's easier.
They need a referral.
And I got a call the other day from an agent. It was it was a sad case, man. I had both of them are terminally ill with cancer.
Oh, wow.
Like, they're
husband and wife?
Husband and wife. Oh man. It was like, and they both couldn't work. The second one just went out on disability. The payment just adjusted upwards. $300 is the last one went on disability, and they were really proud. Like, they didn't want to, and the payment wasn't, I mean, in comparison, that expensive. It was $1,000 payment, and moved from like $7-something to $1,000. So it went from a 10-year interest only to a fully amortized loan. So the payment shifted up, and they didn't want a short sale, and they owed pretty close to what it was worth. I think they owed like 170 something, and like an investor offers like 150, 160 grand. And I was able to break down how to do a AITD, an all-inclusive trust deed, a option, a bunch of other selling formats to the agent, so that either if I got involved or another investor got involved, these people could move out of the property, keep their loan in place, find a new buyer, keep their credit, get some cash. In the end, they finally sort of just said, okay, I know all that looks interesting, but that's a lot of moving parts. They decided to short sale, so we submitted a short sale offer on the property. But as an investor, being able to offer them all these solutions, hey, you can avoid short sale foreclosure if you do it this way. And the agent, they aren't very often, but in this case, the agent was really receptive to it and was like, okay, explain to me how to do this. And took it back to the sellers, and they were stoked. Yeah. And just that solution having another option was what got them to agree to a short sale, which was in their best interest in their current life situation.
Well, 'cause they had something to play it off of.
Yeah.
You know, and they just didn't know it was there or it could be possible. You
Yeah,
know?
and they just felt good about it. Like, oh, we tried everything,
Right.
but we're both sick. We should probably just take this and move. And the bank said, hey, we'll give you $3,000 to move. Worked out for them.
Relocation assistance.
Yeah, and they needed to move to like an apartment, more eastward. They give like $600 a month
Right.
because that was what they could afford on the disability, and live out the remaining time without the pressures of a bank foreclosure looming over their head.
Right.
Which I can't imagine having the combination of all that together. No thanks.
No, yeah.
So
something to ease the process,
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
So Summer, like something I've never really asked, I guess.
Okay.
Prior to becoming a real estate agent, prior to 2010, when you got into the business, what did you do?
Funny you asked, Todd.
Yeah, funny. I guess I actually
was a truck driver for the last decade.
Is this a trick question?
Yeah.
I actually was I was a personal trainer. I was in the fitness industry. I was certified from 2004 to 2009. And I worked with most of my clientele was sedentary women. So for 5 years straight, I worked a little bit in some gyms at first, thinking that was the way to go. But I made a lot more money by going into the homes of these sedentary women who, just worked 40-plus hours a week. They're overweight, embarrassed to be in the gym, didn't feel like they could fit in. So I would actually haul over big medicine balls and and a big crate full of dumbbells and resistive bands, and basically just help them reach their weight loss goals or their muscle building goals. Flexibility, balance, that kind of thing. Incorporated a little bit of yoga. I'm really into yoga. I've always been into yoga since I was 17. And then prior to that, even though I wasn't first off in the fitness industry, I was in the food and beverage industry. So I was cocktail waitressing and bartending and that kind of thing. So
like how everybody starts out in this business.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. And that's the reason why I got into this business, really, was because I was already into customer service. I actually was somebody who got hit by the market and lost my home, so I knew what that felt like, and instead of just playing the victim, I said, well, let me just learn this business, because if I'm good with people, why not be able to be in a business where I can serve, help people, and then have a career in return.
They spent like a decade taking care of people in one way, so now it's just shifting to a different business.
Correct. Yeah. And there's a lot of change going on. I really, despite the fact that it's called a salesperson's license,
Well, it's not anymore.
Oh, it's not?
I mean, you're not a salesperson anymore.
What do you mean?
So I don't actually believe agents are salespeople
No,
anymore.
they're not.
You're a
change facilitator.
Change facilitator.
That's
Hey,
what I call myself.
One.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I sell change. That's what I do.
Well, you're an overseer of the relationship, right? So your job is to go in and to protect the parties.
Right.
Right. You don't really find them a home. They find their own home. You just help them.
Big time.
Right?
Especially with all the technology nowadays. I mean, the first approach that any buyer takes is first usually online, and then the sign in the yard,
Yeah.
And then they're texting you and sending you.
Yeah.
And we've got all kind of cool gadgets through the real estate association that help us with that as well. So
I've been telling people for a while now, like, if you don't own an escrow company in the next 10 years, like, you might as well get out of the business, because our jobs in this industry are being redivided. And as far as the real estate agent goes, the necessity to help find a home is gone. So it's neighborhood knowledge, right? But it's especially if you're relocating, but it's also you're actually a due diligence person, right? Like, your job is to make sure they have the proper inspections, the proper reports, the proper paperwork.
Be aware of the dates, contingency dates,
Exactly.
and making sure the seller's doing what they're supposed to be
legal.
doing, or the buyer's supposed to be doing what they're doing.
So you should be operating much more like an escrow officer or attorney, and much less like a salesperson.
Right.
No one is pushing anybody into a transaction
That's
anymore.
what I say,
And it's therapists too, because you're like,
Yeah.
hey, you said on day 1 you wanted this, and on day 15 you're freaking out. It's just
Yeah.
because you don't want the change. So you're
Right.
change facilitating.
Yes,
Right?
yeah,
You're not-
totally.
You're not going to the house ahead of time and baking chocolate chip cookies and all that anymore because you're not trying to sell the house on its hominess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah, so I like the change facilitator thing. It's because you're facilitating the transaction.
Yeah.
You're helping it move forward.
Absolutely. Something they
You're
couldn't do
babysitting.
on their own, you know.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, I mean, most people are finding the house they want to buy already before you even
Yeah,
Well,
they're just saying, hey, I want this house.
Like
you know?
Redfin is like I use the Redfin app like every day. The Redfin app is so amazing. Nobody needs another person to outline a neighborhood, right?
Right.
I can zoom in exactly where I want, and it'll just there's a new listing in your area.
Yeah.
The price has changed. And it reports. I use it, and I have access to MLS.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's how good the technology is now. So we need to do the calendar.
Yeah. We should talk a little bit about what's coming up with the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club.
All right.
So we have our Saturday morning coffee.
Yes. Wait, aren't we doing happy hour? Happy hour is the next one.
Let's keep it in order then.
We should.
November 11th at 5 p.m. at Heroes in Riverside, we have our happy hour. We'll be hanging out somewhere around that place, probably the patio and the bar over there. November 19th. Apparently that's Veterans Day. I didn't know that until we booked the 11th.
Yeah, the 11th of November is Veterans Day.
November 19th. So you're all off. You have no excuse why you can't
Yeah,
come.
You better be there.
Banks are closed. The Inland Empire Investment Club Saturday morning coffee is at Molino's per usual at 8 a.m. on November 19th. The regular monthly meeting is on a Monday this month because we're avoiding the Thanksgiving holiday. So on Monday, November 21st at the Mission Inn in the Grand Parisian Ballroom, we'll have the regular monthly meeting. And then coming up in December, we only have one meetup, which will be the 15th of December, and that will be our Christmas party.
Awesome.
Which will be at the.
I hope I'm invited.
Well,
you are.
Technically, it's the holiday party or end of year party.
Well, okay, South Park, get all technical
you
with
have to be
Festivus.
politically correct here.
I like it in technical.
It's the Festivus party.
Yeah, it's the winter party.
The winter party. It says Christmas party on here.
Oh,
well,
okay.
we should change that. But
it is the month of Christmas.
Indeed.
Exactly.
But it's open bar, which
bar.
may or may not be a bad decision.
Oh,
Yes.
I will be there for
Open bar,
sure.
and we have food. So we're actually gonna up the meeting cost. It's gonna be $45, but you get open
If you
bar.
prepay.
Nice.
If you prepay, it's gonna be $55 if you pay at the door.
Nice.
And it's the Crestmore Manor in Riverside.
Hooper Valley.
So we won't have parking problems like we have previous years.
So
It's
that
sweet.
means what you would normally be paying is the $20, right?
Yeah.
But for $25 more, you get open bar and some grub.
And food.
That
Yep.
sounds great. And networking.
And music and
music too.
networking, DJ
oh,
and stuff.
I'm
and
sold. What a great night.
That's going to be a lot of fun. We've had fun
Yeah.
the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So I guess we're almost out of time. We never do this right. We're not radio people, but
How much time we got?
it's
1 minute? All
we
right.
could end it out with.
Thanks for coming,
Yeah,
Summer.
thank you,
Oh,
Summer.
you're
Appreciate it
welcome.
around
Thank you
there.
for having me. This is a lot of fun, you guys. Really.
Yeah, we always never know if we can really fill up an hour, but it can totally be done.
So you're
Oh,
listening, in case we missed it, to the Flip Flop Investors Radio Show on KCAA 1050 AM and
106.5 FM.
I always forget that.
We'll see everybody next week on Thursday at 4 p.m. right here on KCAA. We'll see you all then and have a great week.
Later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You're listening to KCAA, Loma Linda, California. The best station in the nation.
I'm Tom Busby, CNBC Radio. It's been 8 years during the height of the U.S. financial crisis since the broad S&P 500 index has declined 8 days in a row. But it did just that again. The NASDAQ also down 8 straight. All that on jitters about next week's presidential election and how each candidate's victory might impact the economy and the stock market. Today, the Dow down another 29 points, the NASDAQ down 47. Late earnings from Starbucks better than forecast. Profits up 23% as U.S. sales rose 4%. Sales in China 6% higher. Cost-cutting helping food giant Kraft Heinz top earnings forecast, even though sales down 1.5% worldwide. And cybersecurity firm FireEye lost less money than forecast, getting a boost in revenue thanks to its cloud computing unit. First-time job